In this video, I will look at two different forms of knowledge. To do this, I will compare mathematics with physics and explore what we mean when we say something is logically invalid and what we mean when we say that something is false. Speaking of things that are logically invalid, watching this video without subscribing to the channel is definitely invalid, so go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Mathematics is an example of knowledge that is ultimately built on definitions. Take a look at the following. 1 plus 1 equals 2. Why is this the case? Why do we think it is true? Well, we can split this up into numbers, addition, and equals, and each of these three things need explaining, which will depend on something else that needs explaining, and so on. But ultimately, we reach a set of basic definitions that we just accept. Of course, we could change the symbols. The choice of symbol is also part of the definition and is somewhat arbitrary, but the basic mathematical definitions are just things that we accept in order to develop more advanced mathematical concepts. Addition leads to multiplication, for example. The various mathematical theories that you know, from geometry to statistics to calculus, are all ultimately built on a set of basic definitions, the foundation blocks of mathematics. But why are these foundation blocks the way that they are? Is it possible, for example, to live in a world where addition is not defined? How about a world in which 1 plus 1 equals 3? If such a place did exist, then mathematics would be very different indeed. In mathematics, we can prove something is right or wrong. Assuming there is no mistake in the proof, then we can be completely certain in it being right or wrong. But this proof is ultimately based on a set of basic definitions, definitions that everyone accepts. The same is true of logic. It too is based on basic definitions. So when we prove that something is logically invalid, and the proof has no mistakes in it, then we can be certain that it is wrong. Of course, if we don't understand the basic definitions, then mathematical proofs and logic will make no sense. So how does this compare with the natural sciences? Take physics, for example. Is this like maths? Is this based on a set of basic definitions? Well, not really. Physics is basically our understanding of the environment. It is ultimately based on nature. And we increase our knowledge, we learn physics, by following the scientific method. I have done a separate video on this, so go and watch it for more detail. But in summary, the scientific method starts with a hypothesis, followed by a test to see if the hypothesis agrees with nature. If it disagrees with nature, then it is wrong. And this is what we mean in the natural sciences when we say something is false. But what does it mean in physics, for example, when we say that something is true? One popular view is that this something has yet to be shown to be false. This is interesting because it means that everything we know in physics could ultimately be false. Certainly, there are things in physics that we once thought were true, but now know to be false. So we can never say for certain that something is 100% right. But this is how our knowledge of natural science works. It evolves over time. This is the big difference between formal sciences like mathematics and logic and the natural sciences like physics. In maths, we can be completely certain that something is true or false, whereas in the natural sciences, we can only be completely certain that something is false. There are still some outstanding questions. For example, the basic definitions at the foundation of our knowledge of maths. Are we somehow born with this intuition? Is it developed through experience? Is there some other explanation for where it comes from? And do they exist and have the same definition in all possible worlds? As for the natural sciences, given that we interpret the environment through our senses and thoughts, can we call this objective? Is our knowledge of physics subjective? All good questions that I hope to cover in a future video. Deep down, everyone has an innate understanding that they should subscribe to this channel. They just don't always realize it. But now that you have experienced a video on this channel, you too must now realize that you should subscribe. So hit the subscribe button.